Hey guys, welcome to the fourth episode of PETROL LLAMA. Today is such a special episode because I get to interview someone who changed my life so much. And I really wanted to do this episode because a lot of people think therapy is scary, and it's really not. It's one of those things. Even on my dating profile, one of the questions is what I get along best with people who, and my response is go to therapy. I think it's an important part. So you guys are going to meet my therapist that I had in Barcelona, and she even was my therapist when I moved back to San Francisco, and her name is Leigh Matthews.
Hi.
Hi, Leigh. God, it's so good to
Hi.
know.
It's been a long time. I was looking through your notes, Stephanie, and it was like the last time we saw each other was September 2019, and my notes were good. They were like, Stephanie's feeling like she's got it together, and yeah, it was nice.
Oh, that's so special. Oh my gosh, how do you keep all of your notes like that? Do you have like
Just
five?
around the house for everyone to see. We just share the story time with my son. And today, Stephanie said, no. They're kept in a really secure space in a cloud with my practice management system. So
Amazing.
I didn't do that before. I had paper notes when I was living in Australia, but then when I moved from Australia, it was a nightmare because I had a massive filing cabinet full of notes that had to go and sit in a colleague's office, which really pissed her off. And after about the fifth or sixth year, she asked me to get rid of them. So, yeah, all safe. Not the
Oh yeah,
story.
I assumed that for sure. So you're still in Barcelona, yes?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you?
we were just up at Miro, the Fundacio Miro
Oh,
today, and up at Montjuic looking at the city.
oh.
And we went on the funicular up to the castle, and it was a really windy day. And my son is really funny. He gets anxiety, so he was sitting there. He said, "Oh, this wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a good idea. I'm not sure." I said, "I love you." I said, "You're like the caveman that's like was at the front of the cave going, I think I can hear tigers. I can hear tigers." And I was going, chill out, chill out. It's all right. But they died and he survived. And that's how we evolved. Yeah.
You're using your son as sacrifice. I love that.
Oh, God. No, he survived because he's the one who looks for dangers, which is the evolutionary value of anxiety, right? So
Yeah.
this is how I explained it to him. And he thought it was hilarious and dumb. And then I told him, look, I have these things too. I'm sitting here, it's windy, and I'm thinking, I have in my head a cartoon where the thing falls and there's a newspaper headline, family of three dies on funicular in Montjuic because it was really windy. I'm like, and it's okay. They're just thoughts. We just like
Yeah.
let them go.
My gosh, that's such a do you find yourself having to switch from therapist mode to mom mode, and how many times does that actually overlap? Because I feel like you've given me the same advice so many times.
No, I think you're not always like a perfect, you know, you're the best possible self you can be as a therapist in therapy. But when you're actually at home and your kid's having a tantrum and it's been a really stressful day, you might not be the best possible version of yourself you can be. You might lose your shit. But because I'm aware of myself and my emotions and that it's okay, like I'll be like, in 5 minutes, I'm gonna like flip out. I'm gonna flip out right now if you keep doing this. But and he like so we talk about our feelings. So my husband and I, if we have a fight, or we'll be like, hey, we're just having a fight right now, but we will get over it. It's normal to fight. We love each other. I think it helps to be a therapist. I think because it's like I wouldn't be if I was a personal trainer, I'd be in top form.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm a therapist and I'm chubby. and but mentally and emotionally, I think it really helps me to stay on top of and be reminded of everything that's really important in being healthy in relationships or with the relationship with yourself. Yeah.
That's really incredible. I think You know, I'm totally guilty of this, and I feel like other people might be too, but, you know, when you go to therapy and your therapist is able to give you such good advice, you just kind of put them in this God position, um,
Mm,
that they've got it all together and their life must be perfect because they're a therapist. So they know how to
yep.
handle everything and they never mess up and they never fight with their husband and they never yell at their kids because they're just
Oh
so
my
evolved.
God. That's so fucking wrong, but it's okay. Like, because I think too, that whole thing of the therapist is being really together. It is part of the mystery and the magic of therapy. But once you're a therapist, and you work with lots of therapists, there's a joke in the industry, which is that it's easier to work with your clients than the staff, your colleagues, because we're all a bit. I think we're all a bit cray cray on some level, because I think probably we're drawn to this particular profession because of childhood issues, or wanting to fix things in the world, and so that becomes a part of your own personal journey as a therapist, is like disentangling yourself from those needs that you have in being a therapist, because that's not what it's about. It has to be completely focused on your clients. But no, the therapists are really fucking far from perfect. But I think that's the essential, like the queen of all, you know, strategies or coping skills is mindful self-compassion. And that's why it's okay. We can be imperfect and leave room for that, because we know that at the end of the day, being human comes with being imperfect. That's essentially what it means to be human. And so that essential skill is, I'm okay. Like, I didn't do that right. I made a mistake, but that's all right. Like, I'm just human. I'm like everybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And what specifically made you want to go into therapy? Have you always been a therapist or were you something else before this?
No, I knew I wanted to be a psychologist when I was 13, and I was at the local mall in Australia. We call them shopping centres, a Stafford City.
Amazing.
And I found a book on psychology, and I loved it. I love particularly the stuff on perceptual systems, like illusions and optical illusions, stuff like that. But then when I did so I always knew, I went and did my psychology degree. I loved it, but I also did a major in like gender studies, which is cultural studies as
Ah,
well, which I really loved. And then I went and did a stint for Lifeline, which is like a telephone crisis hotline, just to make sure that that's what I wanted to do. And that was really scary, but it kind of cemented that, you would have a graveyard shift where you'd have to work from midnight until 8 in the morning, which is really hard. And sometimes it was hard not to get on the floor with a pillow and just sleep and then turn off the phones, but you didn't. But when you have those moments with a client who you're never going to see again, and I remember having my first kind of breakthrough with someone over a phone, and he was like meeting his inner child, and at the end of it, he said, "I've never like had an experience like that. Like, that was really powerful." And I think that was one experience, and then I've had millions of those in my work where you just go, "Wow, like this is such a privileged, amazing
mm,
thing to do." Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like I had a million breakthroughs when I worked with you. I had worked with a therapist before, but in San Francisco where I was living, therapy was so expensive.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that I could afford was going to therapists that were still in their training years.
Yeah.
And so the first therapist I had, like, I would just go and sit in there in silence for like 30 minutes. And she was just kind of like waiting for me to initiate stuff. And I was waiting for her to initiate stuff because I was like, yeah, it turns out I'm a closed book. So I'm going to need you to open it somehow.
I don't remember that about you, Stephanie. I remember you being really forthcoming in
Really?
our sessions. Yeah, but I remember you being like sad. You know, it's interesting. You were having a really rough time
Yeah.
here, and when we first met, which was in December, when I was looking back at your notes just and telling my son about them, December 2017. And yeah, I just remember, though, you had this, you would bring humor in by wearing your Foster's t-shirt, which like combined your last name as well as the Australian element, which like nobody drinks Foster's, but it is like a thing somehow associated with Australia. So that was like, we never spoke about it. It was like, Stephanie's like funny. She's like, you know, she decided to wear her Foster's t-shirt today. Like
You know what I think it was not so much me wanting to be funny, but wanting you to like me.
Oh. But did you feel liked by me?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh.
I felt like you actually cared. And I think for me, something I had to get over was that I was paying you to listen to me.
Yeah.
And so that dynamic was like, well, she's only doing this because it's her financial well-being. It's not because I am worth listening to.
Well, which is, I mean, we'll settle the bill for today as well after. No, this is free. No, I mean, it's really hard with therapy because as a therapist, you are doing it because you do care. I think I myself have been in lots of therapy and still continue therapy because therapy is great. Why wouldn't you? But I've had terrible therapists who I learned the value of not being like them from the experience of being with them. You know, I had one therapist who, like, in the middle of talking, he got up and turned his back and checked his email while I was telling him something really intense about the death of someone really important to me. Or, you know, I turned my head a certain way and he said to me, you know, when you turn your head that way, you look like Kate Blanchett. And I was telling him a dream about my dead sister. Like, it was like, what? This guy, like, totally, he was so great. He was great because he showed me some things that were like, you can never, ever, ever do that or make someone feel like that.
Yeah.
Because it's a very privileged and intimate space in therapy. And part of the job is to, well, and I think you bring your personality to it, but is to give your client unconditional positive regard. You make mistakes, I still like you. We're here to work this out together. We're just a couple of monkeys. We're
Yeah.
just, you know, humans. And I make mistakes and so do you. And I still embrace you and help you to learn to embrace yourself. You know, and that's part of the therapeutic relationship is role modeling that so that someone internalizes that and starts to reparent themselves and say like, hey, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest takeaways of therapy for me was thinking about it as practice, right? Like me being vulnerable with you was just practice for me to be able to have similar conversations with other people in my life.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's the process part of therapy. And if you're like really interested in therapy, I highly recommend you read the books by Irvin Yalom. And
Okay.
Irvin Yalom is an American therapist who's like, and he talks about that, and I'm always saying that in supervision with the therapist on my team, like, you know, come back to the relationship, let the person know how you're feeling, bring yourself to the room, and also reflect on like how they're relating to you and how you feel, and is this something relevant for them in the wider world with their other relationships, and that this is a wonderful fertile ground where you can test that out or make changes with me here, and I won't judge you for that. You know, I'll make it safe for you to do that. And so, yeah, the relationship is a microcosmos. Absolutely.
I think one of the best exercises that you did with me was after I shared something really tough. For instance, like the first time I was able to admit and name that I had been sexually abused was with you. And it had happened 10 years before. And after I shared that, you asked me, what do you think I'm thinking right now? And my response was that I am weak and pathetic, and I should, if I don't want to be touched, I should be able to protect myself in that way. And you were like, okay. Here's what I'm actually thinking, that you are so strong and brave to be able to endure something like that. And that you are not a victim of that. You are a survivor of that. And that was really powerful for me, because I think, we can all just get stuck in our heads so much about, our experience must be what everyone else's experience is.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
And, it's carrying shame for things, and shame is different to guilt. And, no one needs to have guilt about being sexually abused as well. But it means guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am broken. I am wrong. I am a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of us, particularly women, I think, well, men too, we walk around feeling like that, ashamed a lot about things we don't need to be ashamed about, that it wasn't our fault, that in fact it's a victory that we are still standing and resilient, and made it through really difficult things. That's really nice to hear, Stephanie. Yeah.
Do you find yourself, I think I'm asking, going back to the fact that you did gender studies as well, do you find yourself working mainly with women, men? Is it a mix?
No, I work with a mix of people. In Australia, it was more across socioeconomic statuses. Now I work more with expats, who are people who are really well resourced and who, for various reasons, generally come from backgrounds where they're less exposed to factors that make them vulnerable to mental illness. But that said, there's such a variety of people. There are people also who are, dealing with mental illness. And but I do think that the gender studies, what's really important about that, and my own journey in working with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex community and sex workers at the AIDS Council of New South Wales, and also having a lot of friends from the gay community, people who are marginalised, and being marginalised myself when I was younger. I was in a relationship with a woman for like a lot of years, and I know what it's like to experience homophobic abuse. And so that means that whether I'm in session with a man or a woman, I always have that framework of understanding that there's a context, a socio-political framework that really impacts, people's relationships and how they see themselves. So I always love like the idea, like Michel Foucault was a French philosopher who talked about power, and he said, like, we live in a world where there are like discourses, lots of statements that map out reality from like the church, the state, the family, the friends, the school, everywhere, magazine, media, advertising, and we're bombarded with this, and we get caught in the middle of those statements in a nexus. So it's like, what does it mean to be, a heteronormative feminine woman? It means this, it means I'm thin, it means I have to like behave a certain way, be passive, like, whatever the discourse was for you. It can be different over generations, I suppose, but I think those things are quite enduring. But it means that so when someone's talking to me about being in an abusive relationship, or if a man's talking about being, not abusive, but, being difficult in the way that he relates, I can bring that framework and remind them that they fit in a bigger context. And that also allows self-forgiveness.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think something about the wellness industry and therapy too is we're all about saying, fix yourself, heal thyself. But there are pressures external to all of us that bear down on us all the time, that we are all raging against or internalizing and struggling with. And so it doesn't mean that there doesn't have to be massive social change as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have so many questions coming out of that. The first one is, you dated a woman for a while and you're married to a man now. Was that difficult to go through that transition of like, who am I? What kind of people do I love? Or was it something that just felt inherent to you?
I think honestly, Stephanie, like, so probably my relationship with a woman, it was my best friend from high school.
Hmm.
And I really was kind of leaving. I left home when I was 17. I left a really abusive home life. And I think I went into that relationship for it was the safest relationship I knew.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved her, but I wouldn't say, like, I think I became more a political lesbian at that time in my life.
Yeah.
When actually, and I think, we're all like Freud, his theory was really great for queer theory, because he's like, we're all on a spectrum of polymorphous sexuality. Like, we're all perverse, unless you're just like penis, vagina. Even kissing is perverse. It's not for procreation, which, queer theory comes in and goes, yeah, exactly. Like, we're all queer. and that's okay. So we all exist on this continuum of sexuality. But I think I started to realize that probably, yeah, I was attracted to men. I think I was scared of men. I had a very authoritarian father. I think that was irrelevant and had been abused too. And I think not by my father, but by someone else. And I think it wasn't safe for me. And I'm really glad, because I think I got to explore myself as a human being rather than getting too locked into my gender, which I feel really grateful for. It was a wonderful part of my journey. And I got to experience that marginalization, so I don't take for granted. But it meant that when I left that relationship, I did lose a lot of friends from the lesbian community. But my gay friends always said I was like a gay man trapped in a straight woman's body. That's what they always thought about me, and that's how things played out a little bit later as I explored life and sex in my 20s. But yeah, it was interesting. But I think, yeah, there was also, when I was in that relationship, I was very femme, and my partner was butch. She had a shaved head. She was really gorgeous. But people would be like, how do they know that you're a lesbian? And it was like, well, like, guys, get over that shit. But,
Yeah.
there's actually a lot of oppression. Again, there's like a set of discourses within marginalized communities about how you have to be if you're a lesbian, how you have to be if you're bisexual, how you have to play that out. There's prescriptions for your being. So this whole thing, like E.E. Cummings says, like, we're living in this world where every day we have to wake up and like fight to be who we are. He says it in a different way and much more eloquent, but it's to that effect. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I never really thought about that part of like, I definitely struggle with the like, are you girl enough? Are you a woman? But like, it also exists in, are you lesbian enough? Are you gay enough? Do you fit into this community enough? So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's super interesting. And I love that, your focus is on expats, because I think for me, I was like, oh my God, this is my dream. I'm going to live in another country and I'm going to travel all the time. And I am just going to be so happy.
Oh my God. What happened?
And then I did it and I was like, oh my God. So when I moved to Barcelona, I went on a trip and I was visiting a bunch of different cities in Europe, and I was in Barcelona for less than 72 hours and decided I was going to go back to San Francisco, sell everything I owned, quit my job, and move to Barcelona. So I did that. And I think in that I did not I didn't take into consideration that I was stripping myself of every part of my current identity.
Mm,
It was, my friends no longer needed me because we were on a different timeline, like, in different zip codes and all of those things. Like, you're just not the day-to-day person anymore. I
mm,
was no longer a director at this job I had in San Francisco. Um, I didn't have a partner. I wasn't living in my
mm,
home. I
yeah,
didn't speak the language. And
mm,
so, of course, there was the initial excitement of being there. And then it
mm,
was just like depression, like I have never experienced before.
yeah,
And I was like, what is wrong with me? I am living the quote unquote perfect life. Why am I not happy? Why am I not enjoying this? Like,
yeah.
what do you think that, what would you say that they don't tell people about the expat experience?
That is hard. Yeah. I think if you dig enough, but I think people get so excited about it. Oh, it's just like the same as having children. Like, anything that's difficult about having children or being an expat, like people kind of bury or they're too ashamed to talk about it. And so therefore it's not out there for people to find unless they really look. And so, it's a deep shock. And that's like what that cultural adjustment curve, if you look that up, that represents that, where you have the honeymoon period when you come in, it's amazing, and then it just is a complete drop. And that's like here, that's the Barcelona syndrome, which is there's palm trees, like there's a beach, people are rollerblading, there's bars, like there's a gothic quarter, like I'm in Europe, I'm supposed to be happy, and I can't tell my family and friends
Yes.
because I failed at it.
Yeah. And this was my crazy idea. Uh,
Mm,
yeah. And it's basically like, I've made this bed, now I have to lay in it. And I
mm,
have to pretend like I'm sleeping and that sleeping is easy. Um,
yeah.
but I have insomnia.
It's really like it is hard. I think moving countries is the hardest thing like I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
It is just like, yeah, it blows you apart. And I mean, there's the good bits about that, which is actually, rather than resilience now, I really like talking about being anti-fragile.
Mm.
And you can go and like look that up, which is cool. It's like, if you put a diamond under a lot of pressure, or a rock, it becomes a diamond. That's anti-fragile. You become better through something. So I think we do become better through the expat experience, but it's a baptism by fire, really.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's things like, but it does help you to like, that experience of speaking in a different language, and you sound like a developmentally delayed 6-year-old to someone, or you say like, those false friends in Spanish. Like I remember telling my mother-in-law when she was minding my baby that I was going out to get a polla caliente, which is a hot cock. It's not a hot chicken. Pollo, and actually it's pollo alas, but when you're getting out, but you do things like that. Recently, I went down to the store downstairs. My husband didn't wear his mask. He forgot it because the store's just downstairs. It's like our lounge room. So I say, "Hun, can you go down and get like some flour? I'm making some scones." He goes, or biscuits, you call them, I think, in the States. So he goes down, he comes back up. He was really flustered. He's like, "Oh my God, I forgot my mask, but I'm going to take it." Then he came back up again. He's like, "Oh my God, I put my mask on. I apologize." And the security guard followed me around the whole store saying, "People like you that make this happen, that's making this really bad." He said every part of the store I went to, he was right up in my face telling me. And I kept saying to him, I said, "Sorry, what more do you want from me?" Anyway, so this, I'm circling back around, Stephanie. I was upset for him because he was really upset, and he did get into a little bit of a kerfuffle with the guy, which is really not my husband's style. Like he's really
Yeah.
a proper de pan. He's a really great guy. So I go down, like, listen, I want to put in a denuncia here because like your security guard. And I kept saying acostado, my husband. And when I came back up to report to him what I'd said to them, he's like, you were telling them that he was trying to get into bed with me. So like, and he was trying to get into bed with him again and again and again. Like I was trying to say, he was like hassling him. He was like, you know. And it's just like now I don't get upset about that. I really laugh and I think that's hilarious. But when you're first in that situation, making all those errors and people kind of looking at you like with these eyes, like, what are you talking about? It's difficult, especially when you identify, like this is the thing about identity is I'm an eloquent and intelligent person.
Yep.
And I'm trapped behind this wall where these people can't see it and they don't know that about me at all. So this is where you get beyond your ego and you go, okay, like I'm not those things. I have those things in some circumstances, in other circumstances not. And it's not who I am really. And it doesn't matter if someone can see that or not. I have to hold my own and like myself and be okay with people looking at me like I'm a developmentally challenged, like 4-year-old or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I spent a couple of weeks going around saying soy embarazada, which you think means I'm embarrassed, but in fact it means I'm pregnant.
Yes.
So I totally get that. And you know what? I'm constantly blown away when it's definitely something I've experienced in America where people make fun of people who aren't speaking, perfect English. And it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, do you know multiple languages?"
Yeah.
Because they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's just
It's a humbling experience. It's really great.
yeah.
Like I now, like once I started to have this experience, Australia is a really multicultural country too. And, in my school, a lot of the kids there were like first generation Australians. So their parents were immigrants, Italian immigrants or Asian immigrants, like from China or wherever. But I realized I was like, wow, like all those people who I've met in my life who are immigrants, like are just really strong people. And this experience has been a lot easier because I had all the technology to stay in touch with my family. No, we weren't writing letters and it wasn't taking like 600 weeks for them to get word or like sending. So that even wasn't as hard as it would have been for those people. So yeah, it's really humbling. Like you really do develop a lot more empathy.
Yeah. How would you, or maybe how did you, describe me to other therapists? Because I know it's typical for therapists to all kind of meet at the end of the week and they share what's going on to see, obviously in a very safe and anonymous way. But if anyone else has any ideas of what they can try or those kinds of things. So just interested on how you would describe me.
I don't remember taking you to supervision. It took you along. But if I look, Stephanie, at our notes, for instance, I don't put people's names in my notes. I try to make it so that if someone came across the notes, they wouldn't really be able to see. What have I got? I don't know how much I would want to. I don't know how much I would want to disclose to you in this forum, but like it was that you were feeling really down. You were finding it hard. You find it hard to talk or be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Your needs are not met until everybody else's needs are met.
Mm-hmm.
And a strong internal critic, hard to be assertive. amazing friends, loving writing, music, massages, yoga, and just, that family was a big issue. And I'm not going to dissect what I have here about your family history, but that was very challenging. But when I was looking back at your notes today and like how, I found one which said that you'd had a breakthrough around your family because you'd realized that they were doing the best that they could at the time with what they had. And so, like it just, you described yourself as being like super involved and, busy achieving, proving your worth, perfectionism, anxiety and concern to be liked. And I guess, I'd be describing you as someone who, or my thoughts there would be that this person needs to learn to kind of like take care of themselves more, like themselves more, find different coping strategies that are healthy. And also in that time I hope I would have normalized for you that this would be a tough journey. You're also in a really difficult relationship then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a very light way to say that. What I thought was really cool about your practice, though, was I also went to couples therapy with one of your therapists. And that was such a helpful and enlightening thing that I did. And it was just interesting how those two things work together, of me going to see you alone and then going to see her with my partner at the time. And we ended up going through a very, very messy breakup. And it was so hard for me to walk away. But I think one of the things that helped me was your description of clean pain and dirty pain.
Do you remember? Can you tell us
Yeah.
about it?
Yes. So dirty pain is basically going through the same actions that you've been going through before and continuing to be upset by the same result happening. And clean pain means, if you're making a new decision, it doesn't come without pain. And trying something new is also always hard at the beginning, but it's a new kind of pain. It's not repeating things over and over again. It's just a new experience.
Because it's pregnant with possibilities.
Embarazada.
It's embarazada con posibilidades. Exactly. Like it says change on the end of that pain. And so that's the two choice dilemma. Do I stay in the dirty pain that never ends? Or do I choose the clean pain? And that makes that pain a little bit less scary, but it doesn't make it less painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's reminding yourself, I can see something on the other side of this that's different. I don't know what it's going to be. I have to live on into the answers, but it's got to be better than this.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to remember that, like, even leaving a bad relationship is still painful. It's not like just because you're making a good choice for yourself, does it eliminate it being hard?
No, not at all. And I mean, it's really, really difficult for people to leave any kind of relationships. Like, that's home.
Yeah.
You can live in a fucking shack, like a dive, and if it becomes your home, that place will be hard to leave. And I think a relationship is the same too, and you become bonded, to another person. And also, what keeps us, I think, in relationships is that we are hopeful creatures.
Yeah.
I think we do have this sense of things can be different. Things will get better. He will change. She will change. They will be better. And we wait and we wait and we're trying. And so there's this other side to humans. It's not actually necessarily like a masochism. It's a hopefulness. And
Yeah.
that comes with people who are perfectionists, I think, who like have a high internal locus of control. Yeah, I can get shit done. I can make shit happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make this happen. And so it's finding that balance between, yeah, I know when I can make things happen and when I have no control, and that I just keep getting the same result, and it's time to let go. I have to know when to stop trying on some things in life, and that's not a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so much yes. Okay, I'm gonna ask you some questions that came from some of my followers on Instagram. The first one is, why did you agree to do this podcast?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, Stephanie, like if I was still working in Australia, I probably wouldn't have. I think and when I was a younger therapist, I think I was much more rigid about those boundaries, about like, you can't be like taking, don't lift the veil of, and to see what's behind the therapy. Like, but as I work with the expat community, and I'm much more comfortable with the concept of therapy as being a relationship, and that it's okay to be authentically yourself in the therapy room, that it doesn't take anything away from the therapy. In fact, it gives. Then, I'm much more comfortable now just to be able to do these things. I did, like, I had kind of some second thoughts over the last 2 weeks, and I thought, should I be doing this? I don't know. But I really don't see how, I don't see how this is a terrible thing to do. I think it's what I think is incredibly powerful is that you're part of a generation of people who are not ashamed of going to therapy. And this is exactly what, like, my Instagram, okay, I don't have time to be making original content. I'm a curator.
Yes, your Instagram is incredible. For everyone listening, it's at Therapy in Barcelona.
That's right.
Okay.
It's good, isn't it?
It's so good.
I put my heart into. I post things that I think like, wow, I repost. It's like that's fabulous. That's exactly on point. And the thing is, I'm all about destigmatizing, demystifying therapy, because I remember that first step in the journey for myself when I was all of 19, and it was like, I think I'm going to go to therapy. And that scary moment in the room with the therapist with a poncho. Mine did wear a poncho. She was like total. She was the archetypal therapist, Monica. Oh, she was lovely. But it was fucking terrifying. But I didn't realize I didn't know. I had no idea what gifts it would give me. Yeah. And even there were things that we talked about, or that she guided me in, that they didn't hit the ground, or like the ball didn't drop until many years later. It was like planting a seed. But then it was like, oh, okay, like that's what we were talking about like 10 years ago. Now, like I that's slowly like come home to me. So that's why I think it's a very powerful thing to do. I do appreciate that in the States it's incredibly expensive and it's really difficult with insurance.
Yeah.
But and I wish that was different,
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think about it as a privilege. So as much as I say like everyone should go to therapy, it's with the understanding of like everyone with the means should go to therapy.
Yeah.
And
there is a platform, Stephanie, in America of therapists who offer cheaper therapy. Try just Googling that, like a platform where therapists offer cheaper, more affordable therapy in America.
Yeah.
I don't know the name, because obviously, like, I'm not referring people there because we're in Barcelona, right? But yeah.
I've found it helpful to Google sliding scale therapy.
Yep. Yes.
Because then they base it off of your income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good for your listeners to know. Like, always ask.
Yep.
Send emails. Like, if a therapist can do that and they have spots, they will do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that,
Yeah, that's
Mm.
awesome. The next question is, am I the most fucked up person you know?
Well, no, not at all. And in fact, I don't think I know any fucked up people because those people aren't in therapy.
Ah, yes. My Australian friend Pip actually asked that one. Uh,
Thanks, Pip. You're a dickhead. I'm just speaking Australian with her.
I love that.
I'm just kidding, Pip. I like you. I don't know you, but I'm sure you're not a dickhead.
He's kind of a dickhead. The next question is, will you be paying me for my time?
I was actually having a little joke in my head before this, thinking, still thinking, should I really do this? And I was thinking, maybe I won't go. And I thought, oh, fuck, she's probably going to charge me a cancellation fee. So I better turn up.
That's incredible. Someone wants to know, how do you find the right therapist for you?
I think make sure, know what you want to go to therapy for. And you don't have to know in therapy people terms. I'm feeling really unhappy. I feel really anxious. I'm having problems with my life, or I'm just not where want to be at in my life. I think I need a safe space to talk about things, and then get an email and send off that email to all the therapists who look interesting to you in terms of their profiles on whatever platform you're looking at. Asking them, can you work with this issue? Is this something that you've worked with before? How would you work with that? What are your fees? Have a look at their bios. Do you get a good feel? Try for 3 sessions or so. Mm-hmm. Give them a go. If the fit, the relationship is really important, and feeling comfortable. If you feel judged, that you can't say what you want to say, you don't feel safe, it's time to find, move along. But it's relationships. You might have to do a bit of shopping around, and I know that sucks.
Yeah.
But you might have to find the right person. But you'll know, when you feel safe. What was it Stephanie? How did you know I was the right therapist for you, if I was?
You were. I think I found myself saying things that I typically don't feel comfortable telling anyone. Yeah. And I found myself being more honest in that room than I could be even with myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And I never felt shame about anything that I said. And I never felt like, oh, if I don't do this, I can't come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah. And it just felt like, yeah, I don't know. It felt like that you were truly invested. And that came across because it wasn't just hearing from you while I was in that room. You would email me sometimes throughout the week when you read an article that made you think of something I talked about. And I was just like, I'm on Leigh's mind.
It's true. I mean, you want that, and you do want that. I don't know that all therapists are going to do that.
Right.
And I think when in the United States, when I'm on therapist forums, and a lot of the therapists in the United States, they are seeing 30 or 40 clients a week.
Yeah.
The highest my caseload got, not because I didn't have more clients. This is why I have a team of therapists, right? Because I refer the clients to them. I can have lots of clients a week. But the most I can see is about 20, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's 5 a day. But I just don't think you can give your energy. So, I think that's a challenge too in America. I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But you're so right. I think, Stephanie, what therapists can guarantee you is confidentiality,
Mm-hmm.
except if you're at risk of great risk of harming yourself or others. There's a little proviso that they should be going through with you in the first session. Confidentiality, non-judgment, and just safety, a feeling of safety and unconditional positive regard, which is you feel accepted. You can make mistakes. You can not do your homework in between sessions. You can like come back and say, I'm still doing this thing. And, and someone who feels like they're on your side, they're your ally, they're working for you and with you. And, and that the outcome is never guaranteed, because change takes a long time. And you have to do like a lot of work, and that's something, Stephanie, like you have to do all the work, really.
Yeah. It is work. I think of it much like I think about working out, I've got to work out the shit in my brain just as much as I need to work out my muscles and joints and all of those good kind of things.
And you got to feel fear and practice the assertive communication, practice being vulnerable, practice like setting boundaries, practice self-care, practice like choosing the long term, like the thing that's going to make you feel better in the long term over this thing right now in front of me that's going to make me feel much better now.
Right.
Which could be anything, which could be, self-harm or alcohol or weed or like a fuck or,
yeah.
anything like that is work. It's wonderful when my clients are like, hey, I could have like had sex with my ex, this weekend, but you know what, Leigh, like I got up and I said, you don't respect me, you don't get to have sex with me. And I walked out and I really could have banged that person.
Yeah.
But I walked away and it feels really good. And it's like, but that work, that's hard. God,
Yeah.
that's hard, stuff like that. So yeah. So the outcome is never assured, Stephanie, but that's the fertile ground that can, and that's what a therapist really should be giving you and can give you and should guarantee you the basics. Yeah. And there's a blog post on my website about finding like how to choose a good therapist.
Okay.
If anybody's interested, and it's www.therapyinbarcelona.com.
And I will include that link in the description of the episode as well. And, part of my journey with you was dealing with food issues that I had. And so you sent me to someone who really specialized in that. And I did not have a good experience. And so one of the questions here is, what is a respectful way to change therapists? How do you break up with a therapist?
Yeah, I think, I think the onus on you is not to necessarily to be respectful, but we always want to be respectful and assertive in any communication, which is like to have a win-win outcome, and we respect our rights and their rights. So it would just be to like say, hey, I'm just not feeling a fit. I'm not feeling, and it can be really difficult because of the space you're in at that time. You might be so vulnerable. It's just too hard to have to give the reasons. They might ask you for the reasons. You don't have to. You can just say, I'm just not feeling the fit right now. Yeah. And like for instance, at our practice, I've been doing reviews with my therapy team this week and just saying to them, if a client drops out or doesn't email you, like email them, let them know that if they don't feel a fit with you, they can go back to our intake coordinator and she can match them with someone else. There's no problem with that. And just creating an atmosphere with the therapist that like, if they feel comfortable with themselves, like I've had clients leave me and it's okay, like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not always going to be everyone's cup of tea. And that's the first thing I say in first session when I'm going through all the things, like, hey, I just want you to know, like if today, like for instance, this form says that I can, share information with other professionals if you let me. And today, if you're not feeling a fit with me, let me know. And if you'd like me to, I can tell your next therapist what you'd like me to tell them. So So, you know, and then at the end of the session, I will say, like, are you feeling a fit? Like, do you want some time to think about whether we want to work together? Like, if you're not, it's okay. Like, and just opening the space for that. I don't know if all therapists do that, but I just think it's really important for people to feel empowered. So if your therapist isn't doing it, you can still break up with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is great if you can give them reasons. It's great. Like, you know, they can reflect on that. It will help them become a better practitioner. But I also get that when people are in a really vulnerable space in their life, they may not be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Did you break up with that person?
Via email.
Okay.
Yes, I did it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up the episode with questions I ask everyone. So when's the last time you shit your pants, Leigh?
Is this really one of the questions? You know, I probably did shit my pants when I had like diarrhea or gastroenteritis or something. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
it would have been years ago though.
The reason that I asked this question is just because it's so level setting and it makes everyone so human, and there are days you're not in control of your own body.
No, Stephanie, therapists don't shit their pants. We don't shit, and our pee is pink and our shit don't stink. No, like, yeah, actually, I was telling my son the other day about the most embarrassing time in my life would have been when I was 11 and I was going to extracurricular tennis. And, you know, a tennis court is very green and flat. Before the tennis lesson, I couldn't find a toilet. I really needed to wee. There wasn't a bush to wee behind. There wasn't a toilet at the big school, at our school, nowhere. So I was like, okay, I might have to hold this. Oh my God, it was Leigh's turn to do forehand alone in the middle of the tennis court with everyone watching. Started to do my forehand, and didn't it come? All that wee, a big puddle gushing out. Like, and you know, with tennis court, like, you put a drop of water on that. This was like a puddle. I was standing in a puddle of my own piss. And then when I had to walk off the court, no one said anything. It was like I had to walk off and made like footprints, wet footprints. And even worse, I had to go home with Michelle, and her family were taking me home in their car. And then I got home, and then my big sister, because I have 3 big sisters, spent the rest of the evening saying, Leigh weed her pants, she weed her pants. And I don't even remember if I got bullied after that. I don't think I was, but it was awful. And I was 11. I was saying this to my son. I'm like, you're 8, man. I was 11. I was like a big girl. Like, oh my God. Yeah. But I'm like, you've got a penis. So like, use that. Go to the bushes. It's harder when you
use your penis.
Yeah, I'm like, you're really lucky.
Oh my God. Okay, what are 3 things you're grateful for right now?
I think like today being up in Montjuic and looking at Barcelona, I'm really grateful I'm here. I'm grateful to be with my family, my little family, my husband, my son. We have a little dog and a cat, and you know, those people are really noisy and they can be annoying. And, you know, I go into the room to have some quiet time. The next minute, the dog, the cat, and the child are all with me. And it's like, that's love. Like, it's just the catastrophe of a family life is love. It's nice. And I'm just like, I'm grateful for my work and for clients like you who, you know, remind me that it's keep doing it because it's good, you know.
Yeah,
I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
I don't know if it's the best advice, but when I was about 12 and I was with my best friend, and her mother was a solicitor, and we were at a supermarket, we'd done something, but she said to us, you can do anything you want to until you're told not to. Now, I actually don't agree with that because you must not harm anyone, but you know, but it's not the best advice I've been given. I think, I don't know where it's from, but I just think self-compassion, like being kind to yourself, that you are your own, you're always going to be with you, so you have to like you and take care of you, and be your own ally, be compassionate toward yourself, because at the end of the day, that's who you have to turn around and be with. It's hard to live in your own head when you're castigating yourself all the time.
Yeah, I've heard it said, don't let you be the one who says no. Let the world tell you no.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, sorry for Biggie. He's like really good.
Okay.
Biggie. Okay, hopefully that chills him. What else? I don't think we have any other I'm like thrown off by the dog barking. Well, thank you so much for the time, Leigh. This was such a beautiful conversation. And
Stephanie, thanks. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Like, I feel really honored, and I love seeing you being so happy. Like, I'm a fan of yours, and I'm a fan of you being in a good space, and I'm a fan of you even if you weren't in a good space.
Yeah.
You go, that full unconditional positive regard is all around. So it's nice to see you so happy. And it was a tough journey, and you worked really hard. You have big ovaries. You made big, hard decisions, and that's what life is all about. That's just carrying the challenges that we have and relating to the sufferings that we inevitably have, and you're doing good.
Yeah, big ovary energy. Yeah, you would be proud of. Yeah, right. You would be really proud of me, Leigh. I've been sober for a little over 7 months now.
And we never tackled that, Stephanie. I never tackle sobriety with people when they're not asking me to, because that's whether I will let them know. I probably at the time said to you, this isn't good for you, or perhaps I didn't know the extent of it, but but yeah, I think when people are ready, then they're ready, and if they're not, they're not. So well done. That's really that's tough.
Yeah, especially in a pandemic. All I want to do is
That's really, what are you doing instead?
I'm writing a ton. I'm meditating a lot, doing a lot of yoga, going on long walks. I got a dog. That's been really helpful. Yeah, lots of different things.
No, that's amazing. Stephanie, I was recently, my husband and I, every night we're watching like comedy on Netflix, like stand up. And there's a girl, I could not bear to watch her. I think she's called Isalee. I don't know. She's got all these stereotypes and stuff. And you need to be on Netflix, and you need to be doing your form of comedy that is like not, it's from someone who, I don't know. I don't like the message she's spreading. It's not funny.
Yeah.
And I know the little bits I've seen of yours, like you're making people aware of things, but with humor, and it's great.
Yeah.
Are you still doing comedy?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit dead right now. Hence the podcast. But yeah, absolutely still will be doing it once things open back up. I mean, that's kind of why I moved to LA. I wanted to give this thing a real go. So we'll see.
I hope you make it.
Thanks, Leigh.
Yeah, you need to be out there doing it. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, Leigh.
I'm great. Namaste the fuck off now. But yeah, thank you. Like, I'm really grateful for you, and this has been really lovely. And I hope that I haven't violated a heap of boundaries and made you like scared of therapy or your listeners. But it's not scary. It's great.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.